music since lockdown. Ladies and gentlemen, it's Paloma Faith!
Hey!
Hey!
So good to see you. Now, I tell you what, unfortunately, coronavirus is still hampering people's work plans. Robert Pattinson couldn't film Batman because he tested positive. And you were supposed to be here, but you've been tracked and traced. So you're at home in your lounge.
So I was really excited to come in, and the live performance that I've done for you, thank goodness, was recorded the day before by the skin of my teeth.
Phew!
The day before, I was told that I had to quarantine with my whole household for 14 days. So I was due to be there, and I was very much looking forward to it. But now I'm following orders. And I have to say that lockdown was way more fun when everyone else was doing it.
Now you're feeling
It's
like
no
you're missing
good
out.
now.
Of course. And of course you must be, so if it's the whole household, that means your 3-year-old daughter must be back from nursery. Have you been sort of firing up the homeschooling again?
Yeah, I mean, it's quite basic, as you guys know, because your kids are very young.
Yeah.
So it's more just about keeping them entertained than it is about teaching them to read Plato or Homer.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, exactly. Get the Play-Doh back out.
Exactly, or learning Mandarin.
Fine.
It's so nice to see you, Paloma. We'll chat to you in a bit, all right?
We will.
Can't wait.
Now that it would be weird, wouldn't it, seeing them dance with broomsticks between them?
That would be really, really weird. Poor Craig, he gets such a hard time, doesn't he?
He does.
Anyway,
he deserves
Paloma,
it.
He does. Does he
I'm
deserve
joking. We love Craig. We love him.
it? Paloma, it is so nice to see. We've got your fantastic performance coming up later. We saw a little hint of it earlier. Just before then, we just saw a film about. We've been doing these films about how these communities, neighbourhoods have been trying to keep each other's spirits up through lockdown, which is such a big part of how we've all got through the last few months. And you've spoken really openly about the challenges that you've had with your mental health. How have you found the last few months? How have you found lockdown?
I actually, that wasn't really a challenge for me. I actually felt really proud because I'm from East London and I grew up in sort of the Hackney that was really community, and that happened again during lockdown. And it was so nice because, like, I was doing people shopping for them. I was doing, like, at one point, 4 households shopping. And I would, like, go around in my car, like, to vulnerable people and drop all their shopping off. And I actually really enjoyed it. I was like, this is what it's about. That's where I come from. And it sort of reminded me why I love being from a Hackney girl.
Yeah.
And then I think that basically, like, for a little bit at the beginning, I was a little bit worried and scared because the unknown's always terrified. And then I just thought, what have I always done? I've always just got on with it. That's like my general attitude. And I taught myself how to record my own vocals. And so I've recorded the song that I've got out now in the basement of my house. And I've learned how to do it.
Which we are seeing now, yeah.
So I quickly cobbled something together because I didn't actually have an office or a studio. I just, like, that table's like a B&Q table.
Yeah, it's kind of reassuringly basic, isn't it? It's kind of reassuring. Anyone could do that.
I just, like, sort of threw it all together, and I got a microphone and I used my laptop and I spoke to a few people on the phone about what I should do and how. And then I just learned, and I basically vocal produced with an engineer my whole record. So, like, all the vocals were produced and engineered by me and my engineer during lockdown. Thank goodness for the internet.
Exactly.
And I feel like I've learnt something, and actually my vocals really benefited from it. I feel like I remember, like, delivering it all, and the person from my record company was like, what happened to your voice? And I was like, nothing. It's just that no one's staring at me and I'm sort of feeling uninhibited. And so I kind of loved that side of it. What I didn't love was the anxiety and worry about people that I loved that were in the sort of field.
I think we all felt like that, didn't we? But what I wanted to ask you about, I listened to a podcast recently, and you've inspired tons of mums because you've spoken really honestly recently about postnatal depression. And, you know, you say very openly that you found it very hard to be a musician who was touring and a mum at the same time. You didn't particularly enjoy the challenge of that, like many of us don't, and that actually the music industry, it wasn't that supportive. Do you feel their attitude towards you changed after you became a mum?
I don't feel that the music industry wasn't supportive. What I felt was that the construct, it was difficult to try and navigate how I can do both, and the whole sort of system of successful working women across the board in culture is kind of like designed in a way that we're sort of taught that we almost have to pretend that we don't have that going on as well, when actually what I realised from it happening was that I became super ambitious. What I could achieve was greater than I've ever achieved. Like that year, I remember when I went back to work, I think it was one of my most successful years, maybe not in the public way, but like, you know, like financially and organisationally, and the way that I compartmentalised how I worked and stuff, and my efficiency just went.
But of course, your achievement, you know, raising a child, it's not necessarily acknowledged by culture. You don't get paid for it, but that's the hardest thing, and you do, you know, that's the hardest thing.
And I think, I was trying to sort of navigate a world that I'd only navigated before being childless, and then I think that sometimes it felt maybe that I just didn't know how to do it, and I don't feel that my industry, there's not enough people doing it openly, that my industry knows how to deal with it either. But then at the same time, you look at, you know, big stars. Like, I didn't realise until recently that Aretha Franklin had 4 children, and I was in shock. I was like, how's she done that?
Of course.
Yeah.
But can I just
like
ask,
it's so empowering.
I'm so sorry to interrupt, because there's a little delay on the line. Just what about your label? Because you talk about your ambitions were fired up. What about your label? Do they share your ambitions, or did they lower their expectations of you?
I feel like the head of Sony, who's like the head of the whole company, was always really, really supportive, and sort of, he said that he felt that, to me, that I was like a symbol of empowerment for women. So, so that was super. From him, it was just, I felt very supportive.
Well, the product, I mean, I know, it's
Yeah,
crude to
I
talk
mean,
about the product. The song is amazing.
What you've produced sounds fantastic, and it could, you know.
Thank you. Do you know what's mad about postnatal depression, though, is that you spend all this time going, oh my God, I'm terrible at being mother, I'm awful, and then you suddenly go one day, oh, I'd like more. And then you just go.
It's dangerous, that's dangerous.
It's the weirdest thing, isn't it? It's so weird. I know. Well, Paloma has created something very special for us. Her first ever performance of her new single, Better Than This, is coming up, and it's a belter.
It's fantastic, and we'll be back with Paloma very soon. But let's first meet our next guest. This is a man who spent over half a century creating some of the most loved and